Hello, hello. Genesis 33 today. Whew. Getting into some interesting stuff again. Lesser known stories, but back to some more, in my opinion, interesting topics. Might I just say, it is spring and spring has sprung. I'm in the Midwest and we had some late snows, which led to some flooding, which led to some terrible roads. But spring is here, people are happy. I've been working at a few high school and junior high track meets lately, and being outside in the spring, put me in good moods lately. Good moods indeed. So, I finally have some time. Let's get back to it. It's been a while, but we're getting to Genesis 33. So remember, Jacob is coming back to his brother Esau after having kids with 2 women and then both women's handmaids, so 4 women total. Again, don't put the Christ monarchy onto these patriarchs. They're not Christ. They're not perfect. They are righteous men in their own way, but clearly they have flaws. And if you read it with like a psychologist perspective too, you can see a lot of the issues that Jacob and all these patriarchs have with their own flaws. One is polygamy. He has multiple wives, and it leads to a lot of issues. Now, obviously, it's within God's greater plan. Nothing falls out of God's providence, so even bad things are used to his good will, which creates the tribes of, the Israelites. Awesome, but that doesn't mean that it's not bad while it's happening. Just because God can make it into goodness because he is good and always working towards good and is more powerful than anything, so he's going to win with good, doesn't mean that your bad actions were a good thing. And polygamy is one of Jacob's flaws, and we'll really see that come into play in this story. I'll even talk about, there's, spoiler alert, vampires are big in kind of Hebrew lore. I'm sure anyone who knows vampires heard of Lilith. There's like the legend of Lilith, which is the first woman created by Eve. She's the original vampire, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of this is in the Hebrew legends and lores and things. And vampires comes into play here because there's a lot of legends around the Edomites, which are descendants of Esau. He's a great nation predicted at their birth, and a lot of vampire legends around them. And they kind of point to Esau as being like a vampire. Like, look at the way he's born, the way he's described, especially when you translate it back to the original Hebrew. It's just a weird description. We just read it and it says about he's like hairy and has a weird complexion. He's strong, and Jacob's just plain. But the translation is that Jacob is like a good, healthy baby, and this kid's different in different ways. But it's all lore, legend. It's not really the thing. It's not really the message necessarily. But we'll talk about it all. So King James Version, Genesis 33, verse 1. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children unto Leah, and unto Rachel, and unto the 2 handmaids. They don't even get to their names. Alright, before I get into it, remember all the way back with, say, Hagar and Ishmael. These multiple wives, they lead to a lot of issues. The problem really, especially with Ishmael, was that Hagar was of a totally different culture. So she taught totally different values, and it's caused internal struggle in Ishmael's heart. And it really came to fruition with his later descendants. It was this internal struggle of the cultural values that they're being raised with. The handmaids here, it's not the case. It's still not right. You can see that it leads to issues, and we'll get into it in a second with Jacob. But it's a little bit different because all of his sons are raised with the same sort of values, because all these women, these handmaidens, were of the same cultural background and belief system and values as both Rachel and Leah. They weren't like Hagar was Egyptian, probably a princess of Egypt from what it seems, and she had totally different cultural values. And you see this with a lot of the issues of people marrying, how it grieved so much their hearts when Ishmael married certain women, or when Esau married certain women, because they had totally different cultural values. The handmaids here don't have that. So that's something that's kind of works out in the end with Jacob and his descendants, is because these all have the same culture from both their father and their mother. Now there's rivalry between the mothers, and between the children of each mother and all that stuff. But as far as what is culturally valued, it's the same for both parents in every one of their cases. So it's a little bit different, but still, you see the issue with polygamy. So he separates them up. Verse 2, and he puts the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah and her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hindermost. And then he passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. All right, so he orders them in the order of like who's valuable. What I want to know is like which handmaid came first. Rachel is the woman that he wants. That's the one he wanted to marry before Laban tricked him into marrying Leah first, and then both women ended up giving him their handmaids so that they can have kids through them, through their handmaids on their side and all this stuff. And he went for it. His women are offering him other women, and why not? And I'm curious, since Rachel's his favorite, keeps her closest to him, so if there's danger up front, he can keep her safe. And Leah before him, because that's an actual legitimate wife, so she's more valuable than the handmaidens. But, like, was it Rachel or Leah's handmaid that went first? Like, because Rachel's his favorite, so maybe her handmaid got privilege, but maybe, like, he preferred Leah's handmaid, she was a cooler woman. So, who knows? The wrong thing that I'm focusing on, but that's what's going through my mind, is which one came first. And was she like, how mad was she about it? Or did they just kind of know their place? I don't know. And this is what I'm talking about. So there's clearly an issue. Like, has to order his people. Like, first off, it's shrewd and smart. Before this, he was sending gifts and people up to announce his coming, offering sheep and cattle to his brother. Because he hears he's coming with 400 men. He's like, oh, crap, is he coming to kill me? Like, we didn't leave on good terms. I stole his inheritance and the blessing and everything. Ran away. He said he's going to kill me next time I come back. 400 men. So I got to, like, show that I'm humble and that I'm meek and that I'm sorry and all this stuff. So he sends him cattle in the last chapter and all kinds of livestock and humility. But now, just to be extra safe and keep his favorite, his bottom B, his number one gal, safe, he keeps Rachel and then Leah ahead of her and then the handmaids in case there's danger, who to protect and all that. That's so wrong. I mean, it's funny to me because I'm a sick person probably, but it's wrong. And it's because of this polygamy. Like, you're causing such, like, what does that say to your children from the handmaids or to your children of Leah? You're protecting this Rachel and Joseph ahead of, why not keep all the kids back? Why send the kids at all? Why send, what I'm saying? But he's just trying to do as much to prevent. Well, and I don't think he really thinks Esau's going to slaughter kids and children and women like that. But anyways, he keeps bowing on the way, and finally he gets there, and he gets to his brother just to show he's humble and he's meek, and that, you're my elder, and I respect you, and I know you're my blah, blah, blah. Verse 4, and Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw the women and the children, and said, who are those with thee? And he said, the children which God hath graciously given thy servant. So all it was, I'll just read verse 5 real quick there again. 4. And Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. That right there, no joke. Again, I said this is lore and legend, like stuff, but that's where the vampire Esau comes in. Again, we'll get more into like the way they worshipped his descendants, the Edomites, and it's really sick, and it plays into like vampire lore. But I think vampire lore more plays into what these religious people did. Like, they were vampires because they worshipped a certain way, not because they were vampires in the way that we see them. Like, vampires, the way we see them, are a reflection of what these real people did with blood sacrifices and things. And these are the descendants of Esau that come into doing these sort of practices, which is basically because of the women that Esau married. Like, I'm not trying to put all the blame on the women. Esau wasn't a great guy. But they'll go to his birth and the ways described in his birth, and that he's a great hunter, and that he doesn't get the blessing because he doesn't get the blessing. That's it. You have to get it. Get that it's not about this world. It's about serving God. Get to give God your best sacrifices because it's a greater thing than to hoard money or to cattle or whatever on the earth here. That's what he didn't get it. Esau was about this world, not about the godly things, the heavenly things. Jacob got it. He wasn't a perfect man, but he got it. That's why he got the blessing. Anyway, that's the thing. He ran to him and he fell on his neck and kissed him on his neck, and they wept. That's the verse where people say, see, that in his birth where he's described oddly at his birth are what people say for him being a vampire. This isn't me. I'm not making this up. This is a legitimate, been around for thousands of years. Funny though. All right, and he lifted up his eyes, and basically they're catching up here. He's like, who are these kids? Oh, these are the kids that God has blessed me with. Verse 6, then the handmaids came near, they were, and their children, then they bowed themselves. And Leah also with her children came near, and bowed themselves. And after them Joseph near, and Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he said, what meanest thou by all these drove which I met? These were the droves of cattle and sheep and livestock that he was sending even for his wives and stuff. And he said, these are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. And Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep that thou hast unto thyself. And Jacob said, nay, I pray thee, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then receive as my present at my hand. For therefore I have seen thy face as though I had seen the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me. So, the droves he sent ahead, Esau basically he's like, what was that? What was all these droves about? Like, it was just a bunch of livestock and things being presented to me. And Jacob's like, they were a gift to you, man. And Esau's like, what? I don't need any of this crap, dude. No, keep it. You know, this is exactly how brothers would be like if they were at a restaurant one's trying to pick up the check, you know, and like, no, I don't. I can get it. This is what it sounds like to me. But basically, think about it. Esau stayed behind with Isaac and all of Isaac's wealth. He is the elder brother. He inherited it all even though Jacob had the inheritance, Esau got it. Like, Jacob left. Esau was there. So Esau's doing fine. You know, he's like, I don't need any of this stuff, man. Like, I missed you. You know, they were close at one time. And you like to think that Esau grew. I hate to see what happens to his descendants, but I like to think that Esau grew as a little bit. Maybe not completely, maybe not into a totally righteous man, but grew in the sense that he forgave his brother and he loved his brother and missed his brother and wanted to be with his brother again. Wanted the family, the love, you know. He, again, grew to understand love a little bit more. And Jacob is like, no, you got to take the stuff, okay? When I saw you, it was like seeing the face of God and God being happy with me, seeing that you came here and embraced me and made me so happy and fulfilled, because I never wanted to seem like I betrayed you or anything, you know. Again, it was Jacob's mom, both and Esau, they had the same mom, who Rebecca kind of made it so that Jacob did all this stuff. I keep sounding like I'm blaming women. I'm not trying to do that. Yikes. Maybe that's what the Bible's doing. I don't know. But he ends up saying, just take it. And you know what this does? It shows that Jacob is not about this stuff. He's like, it's never about the stuff that, man. Bro, it was never about money or any of this stuff. I have money here. Take everything I have. That's never what it was about to me. Because that's what the blessing is. Blessing is knowing that it's not about the stuff. It's not about the things or the prestige, or the fame, or the glory here on earth. It's not about any of that. And he's like, take it. You know, Esau is like, nah, because he didn't need it. And he grew into loving and understanding and forgiving his brother. But it shows, he ends up taking it. He does, because Jacob's like, you got to do it. And it kind of shows, you know, Esau still kind of has that, you know, money. But Jacob is showing, it's not about that. It was never about that for me. That's not why I wanted the inheritance. That's not why I meant to do any of this stuff. It was never about money or power or glory or prestige. Take it. It's yours. Because he gets the blessing. That's what the blessing is. It's understanding that. And he knows the Lord will bless him again. And Esau takes it. So moving on. Verse 11. Take, I pray thee, my blessing that is brought to thee, because God hath dealt graciously with me. This is Jacob saying it. And because I have enough. Comedian I like, Owen Benjamin, says that something his mom always told him was she always wanted him to have enough. It was very deep. And I like that. And right here, so we'll say that one more time. Verse 11. Take, I pray thee, my blessing that is brought to thee, because God hath dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. Let's see what that translates into. All things. He has all things. So Hebrew enough translated, I have all things, because he has God. And he urged him, and he took it. Esau takes the stuff. And he said, let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before thee. And he said unto him, my Lord knoweth that the children are tender, and the flocks and herds with young are with me. And if men should overdrive them one day, all the flock will die. Let my Lord, I pray thee, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly, according as the cattle that goeth before me, and the children be able to endure until I come unto my Lord unto Seir. And Esau said, let me now leave with thee some of the folk that are with me. And he said, what needeth it? Let me find grace in the sight of my Lord. So Esau is basically like, come with me, man. Let's go. Let's party it up. Let's have a great time. Catch up with your family. You meet my family. This is going to be awesome. We'll have a barbecue. And Jacob's like, hey, I can't, man. I got cattle and my kids, and everything. I can't push the pace with you and your soldiers and everything. So let me go at my pace and I'll catch up with you later. And Esau's like, yeah, well, all right. I'm going to leave some guys behind to help you out. Like I said, typical bro stuff is what it sounds like. Verse 16. So Esau returned that day on his way unto Seir, and Jacob journeyed to Succoth, and built him an house, and made booths for the cattle. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth, which means booth. And Jacob came to Shalom, a city of Shechem, which is Sichem. All right, just a culture, I guess, which is in the land of Canaan. When he came from Padar Aram and pitched his tent before the city, and he bought a parcel of a field, where he had spread his tent at the hand of the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. And he erected there an altar and called it Elohe Israel, which translates to God, the God of Israel. Cool. So yeah, he goes onto Succoth and builds himself like a little farmstead, a house, and a booth for his cattle to be raised on. And then he goes on into this, basically the city of Shalem, and pitches his tent there and basically buys a plot of land. So he's got his city residence and his farm residence, smart business stuff going on. It shows the legality of how people lived even back then, yet everything's still like contracted. That's never changed. It's not a new thing, it wasn't just like you can go and like live anywhere. You always had to like show that you paid for it or bought it or were living there working for somebody. It's an old concept. I mean, there's a bit more justice now with people not being able to just come in and tear the contract up, but same sort of thing going on. And I like this story. It's bros reconciling everything. Now, people will say what they will about the Edomites and what becomes of Esau's line, and that's true. And I'm not trying to be a basher here because Esau has plenty of flaws. He doesn't get it. He never understood the blessing. He never really shows in any way that he gets it. You know, because the blessing isn't like the inheritance. It's a understanding, getting it. You know, you get it. He got the blessing. That it's not about this world. It's about the next world. Live for the next world. You know, it was as old as Cain and Abel. You know, Cain didn't get it. He just offered like measly little blessings, all sacrifices to God. Whereas Abel got it. He was giving his best stuff to God because he got it. It's not about keeping the best stuff for yourself because God is the best thing. And he'll give you good things. He'll give you enough. He'll always give you enough. More than enough, really. And the more glory you give to him, the more he will love and honor you and cherish you. But the people who think, you know, I'll just give like this little bit of my time, or do this little small thing, or give this little measly thing. It's like, that's great, and you know, you're not a terrible person, but do you really get it? Do you get what the blessing is? Is that heavy bank account that you have is meaningless. It's meaningless. It's not about the things of this world. And I'm not telling you to just go give everything away and start yelling in the street to glorify God, but you'd probably have more respect after you died in heaven if you did. Like, it's just the way it is. Esau didn't get the blessing, but in this chapter you see that he grows and he understands that some aspect of love, you know, and he missed his brother and he wants his relationship back with his bro. And Jacob so relieved to see that his brother's happy to see him, not only because he's not going to die, but also because Jacob loves his brother too. And now he's got his bro back to hang out with and talk, you know. There's no one like your brother to talk to about stuff. And he got that back. And now they're going to have like family barbecues and stuff and whatnot, you know. And it's too bad that those damn other cultural Canaanite women that Esau married messed up his bloodline, you know, messed up his children, because they taught their culture as well. See, Esau was Isaac and Abraham's grandson, Isaac's son. Like, he was taught the culture, and he was Rebekah's son. He was taught the stuff of God, and I think still it never shows that he didn't, that he believed in God and that he tried to live a godly life, but he didn't really get it, you know. It's hard because there's tons of people who are Christians who are good people, but even they don't get it. That this world is, you know, this world's squat. It's not that you shouldn't be a good person, but don't live to be big in this world. Live to be big in the next world. And that's really hard, even for a Christian, even for Esau, who was the son of Isaac and Rebekah, the grandson of Abraham, who was raised in it. But he didn't quite get it. And then he marries women from other cultures who totally don't even believe it. Not that they don't totally get it. They don't even believe any of it. Esau believed it. He just didn't totally get it. These other women didn't even believe it. And they passed that on to the children. Because the women are spending the majority of the time with the children when they're young. They're the ones teaching them, talking to them all the time. And this is why you see later in generations, look what happens. Because they're teaching them the Canaanite stuff. And there's not that every single one of Esau's descendants stopped believing, but over time, the Canaanite traditions started winning out. Just like over time in Ishmael's bloodline, kind of the Egyptian Hagar side of things started kind of winning out. But in Esau's case, it's much heavier. But, one more time, it's not about all that yet. We haven't gotten to that yet. This is the story of two brothers reconciling a dispute, of realizing that they missed each other and that they loved each other and getting over it. So often families fight over inheritance after someone dies. And I'm sure those who have gone through something like that you're going to regret the years you lost with those family members who are still alive. And I think that's what Esau realized here. You know, he regrets those years he lost with his brother Jacob. At least that's what I like to think. Alright, Genesis 33. The next one we'll get into is Genesis 34, which is the defiling of Dinah. Anyway, it's Jacob's daughter. I'm pretty sure it's his only daughter at this point. she is not treated too kindly by some men of another culture. All right, everyone, have a wonderful morning, good afternoon, good evening, and God bless.